before we do anything else, let me pop something into the chat. What I've got for you is, oh, Daniel, great. Welcome back. What I've got for you that I'm putting up into the chat now is a copy of the prompts that we're going to go through today as we look at different techniques. So you'll have your own copy of that. Let me see if I can find an easy way to do that. I think I might be able to just drag and drop. Okay. I'll put it up again at the end. If I forget, feel free to remind me. But I do want you to have a copy of these. And I think one of the advantages is you could actually use these to make a template for yourself and then just fill in the appropriate specifics that you need for a particular circumstance. But let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm David Bowman, and the lead trainer, developer of EdAINow. And we're not going to spend much time talking about EdAINow, but I will mention one thing, that after 30 some years of being in education, from a teacher all the way up, I'm really excited about what AI can do for teachers. And I see a lot of folks talking about the shiny new toy, and it's really neat. It's like a lot of oh wow moments, right? But with that being said, pedagogy is still important, and good teaching is still good teaching, and interacting with kids is still critical to the learning process. So what excites me about this is not all the neat stuff that it can do, but the way it can help us do all the stuff we're supposed to be doing, right? And make it a little easier and make it facilitate a little bit better. I know that folks spend an enormous amount of time lesson planning. My wife is still a teacher, and that's her weekends right there. So if we can do something at the same quality or better, and we can tailor it to what the actual kids in our classrooms need, and we can save a little time, then we've got a tool we can really use, not to replace what we do, but to help us to do it better. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at this piece right here, going through. Just a quick overview. We've got half an hour, and I'm watching the clock. A couple of folks who already know me are well aware that if I just start talking, sometimes I forget to stop. But I'm watching the clock, all right? I've got a lot of enthusiasm for what we do. So there's four main things. First, we're going to look at two basic ways to create lesson plans. Either we start with the learning outcome, or we start with target standards, like address this standard. Then, because teachers go through evaluations and their lesson plans get reviewed, how can we use the AI to meet those evaluation criteria? So that's the third. And then we'll look at how to get feedback and recommendations for improvements on lesson plans. So that'll be number 4 if we get there. And I'm going to do my darndest. All right. So before anything else, at some point we've got to type something into our AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever we're using, whether it's for lesson plan or any other purpose. But there's 3 things that we have to include in every prompt. If we're going to get back something that's usable to us, we've got to give the appropriate stuff to the AI tool. And very quickly, the main 3: context, purpose, and task. Context is, what does the AI need to know? Like if you have somebody walk into your room and say, I need you to help me with this. Here's some stuff you need to know to do it. That's
Rob, you might want to ask them if they want to paint the, if one of them wants to paint the wood.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Kathy?
Because,
Yeah.
yeah.
You might want to mute.
Sorry.
Just saying. Okay, so number 2 is purpose, which is, what's the point? What do we want the result to be? And the third is, what do we want the AI to actually do for us? Like specifically, clearly, what do we want the AI to do? So if we've got those 3 pieces, which we'll show with the examples, we've got a pretty good chance of getting something usable. There are some other things we can add. Persona, which is if you could ask anybody to do this task for you, who would it be? You are a middle school history teacher with 30 years of experience, or whatever the case is. Format, what do we want the output to look like? Sample, do you have a sample you can provide and say, hey, follow this? And style, which is more for writing tasks, but that's, friendly, concise, academic, and so forth. So, three main things and some options to help the AI give us what we need. Now, before we jump to the first prompt, you're going to see the same four things across the board. What are the kids learning in this lesson? What do we know about the kids? Where are they in the learning process? What do they already know? Do they have any special needs? Are they advanced? Are they ELL? I mean, what do we know about the kids? Because that will affect the output so we can make sure the lessons are appropriate for those kids. Pedagogical approach, what does it look like? Is it cooperative? Is it constructivist? Is it small group? Is it individual learning? Is it direct instruction? So what does it actually look like, and how are the kids engaging? And then just how long is it, basically? Okay, so you're going to see that in all of the prompts and the samples. So the first approach is starting with the context, the content, the learning outcomes. And we're going to put in context the outcomes, the approach, and the logistics, as always. But specific things we're going to ask for: learning objectives. What standards does it apply to? What differentiation, make sure we're differentiating for the student groups. Ask for instructions, resources, and assessment. So let me just jump to the prompts. And let's actually put this into place here. So on the document you've got, prompt 1, you're going to see all of this. So this is starting with the learning outcomes. So the first thing is, the first part of the task: review the uploaded content standards, and we're going to upload them. Then create a lesson plan. Simple enough, right? And now let's look at the individual parts. I've got 7th grade students. We're studying U.S. history. The specific topic is pre-colonial governance movements, which honestly is a lot more interesting than you might expect. Okay, so context. What are we learning? What do I want the kids to be able to do? Identify specific actions and ideas leading to self-governance. I want the people, and something every history teacher wrestles with: how do we connect it to today, right? What effects? So I've got my outcomes. I've got my approach here. What does it look like? Some direct, some cooperative, and I'm being very specific. This is what I want incorporated in the plan. If I'm not specific, I might not get it, right? So to get what we want, we ask for what we want. I want constructivist pedagogy, Socratic, Bloom's taxonomy. I need bell ringers, right? So all of this is in the prompt document that I shared. But the point is, the more specificity we can give, the more tailored and exact the response is going to be. And I've got my logistics. So if I were going to make a template for myself, this is the stuff that is going to change for each lesson based on what we're trying to learn. But down here, this stuff is pretty much consistent across all of the prompts. I need objectives. I need standards. I need differentiation. And in a classroom, it's the same kids Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday all across. So this one can probably stay the same and for all the lessons. And I need resources, and I need an exit activity and a summative activity. So that's boilerplate stuff right there. We modify the stuff at the top, the details at the top. This one's probably going to be consistent. So since we're starting with the content, let's give it a go. And I will note, pro tip: upload your standards. If you don't upload your own content standards, you're probably going to get the national models, you're going to get Common Core, you're going to get next generation science standard and the big models like that. But if you need to align to a specific set, like a state level set of content standards, then you're going to want to upload them. And that's what I'm going to do in this case here. And as soon as I find it, there we go. All right, so let me just drop all of that in, and then I'm going to go ahead and put up the standards that we would use. And in this case, what we're going to find for history here is obviously history, standards, social studies, but probably also English language arts if there's any kind of a writing test. So I'm going to add that one as well. And I'm simply going to drag and drop. And I'm putting them in as PDFs. So I don't need to give it the standards. It will review those documents and find the ones that are appropriate to the learning outcome I've identified. And then I just say, go. And there's my prompt. And here it comes. And now I've got a pretty decent lesson plan tailored to the content that meets the outcome expectations I've identified and is tailored to the needs of my specific students. And on, it's still thinking. So I've got my objectives. Hurrah. It found the relevant standards to those objectives from both social studies and here also English language arts. I mean, one of the really great things that the AI tools do is they'll read all that stuff. If I had to dig through the content standards, say this one, that one, this one, that one, I'm going to spend a lot of time doing nothing but just researching and digging through the standards. I'm going to turn it over to the AI. Some strategies for differentiation for different types of students I've identified. And then I've got my daily instructional plan. What am I actually doing? And we're going to see if we spend more time doing it. We're going to see all of that stuff in there. We're going to see the questioning. We're going to see the mix of direct instruction and cooperative learning and so forth. It is all in there. I've got my little mini formative assessment going on here. I've got my bell ringers. I've got my questions to ask at different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Because if we're going to talk about comprehension and developing understanding of concepts, we're always going to turn to Bloom's. So there we go. And resources. Now, what I could do is I could say, hey, this right here, this Venn diagram, give it to me. And I can put that in my next prompt and have it generated for me. Although, honestly, that one's pretty simple. And assessments. Exit ticket, summative. Do you want me to do it as a formatted Word lesson plan document, which generally I would do? I would say, prepare this as a Word download with formatting, and now I've got something to put on my desk or hand in to my principal or whoever's going to look at my lesson plans. So that's approach one. And let me just double check right quick, chat, just to make sure. One new. Okay, great. All right, so that's starting with the learning outcome. We can do something very similar starting with the standards. Now, what I often recommend is we're going to look at the data. What do the kids already know? I mean, whether it's formal assessment data, or formative or summative assessment, or whatever we've got, or just the data about what we observe of students on a daily basis. That is going to lead us into saying, you know what, here are the content standards where kids seem to be struggling. I need to build plans specific to meet those standards. So we're going to do something very similar here, but this time we're going to actually pinpoint those standards where kids need some support or they're ready to grow into those standards. So much the same, we provide all the same stuff, but you'll notice here under provide, we're putting standards as opposed to outcomes. And then much of the ask for is the same stuff again. So let's do it. So this is prompt number 2, strategy 2, starting with the standards. Review it. And here I'm going to, obviously I need to give it the standards because I'm going to say, refer to these standards here. But one thing I do recommend, we'll call this just a little pro tip. Based on what we want the kids to accomplish and we want the focus of the instruction to be, we know that we want to target those specific standards. So I need a lesson plan for that. But what often happens is there are other standards which are somehow related or supportive. So if there are others, find them for me and add them too, right? So I can say the instructional focus of this lesson is standard 3 NFA2A and 2B, but it's also helping kids to make progress towards these other areas. And then much of the rest of it is kind of the same, actually. What's my approach? My logistics? And then a lot of that boilerplate stuff at the bottom again. Provide objectives, differentiation, and so forth. So here, obviously, I need to give it the standards. So let me grab a new chat over here. I'm going to drop it in. And now I need to. The first one with the outcomes, I didn't need to put in the standards, but here, obviously I do because I'm telling it which standards to look for specifically. So here, this is 3rd grade. So I'm going to grab my 3rd grade math standards, give it a moment to upload, and then say go. And I'm very curious, actually, to see what it finds for other standards. Here's your full lesson plan. It's going to think for a bit. Duration, all the standard stuff at the top. Here are the 2 standards I asked for. So that's great. And it actually found that it can contribute to students' development in this content standard also. I think one of the things teachers should be tracking is what standards have we actually addressed, right? And oftentimes what will happen is we'll say, I need a plan for this standard. And next week we're going to do this other standard. And then we're going to do this other standard. When in reality, there's a lot of cross-referencing. There's other things we can be addressing at the same time. Because frankly, if we try to do one lesson, one standard, we are never going to get through it in a school year, right? So we're always looking at multiple standards, and sometimes it's just a lot easier to let the AI say, oh, you're also doing this. If you're doing this, we've got that. And then I'm going to put that on my tracking to say, what standards have I explicitly addressed in my lessons? And then we've got a lot of the same stuff. So that is starting with the specific standards. Or on my tracking for my standards, I'm going to say, you know what? We haven't looked at this one yet. I need to do it to make sure kids can make progress towards it and demonstrate it. And that's what I'm going to feed into my AI. So over the course of time, I've given kids the opportunity to make progress in all the standards. So I've got differentiation strategies. I've got my full instructional plan, my day-by-day plan here for 3 days. I've got my resources. I've got my assessments because I asked for it, basically. Do you want a student-facing worksheet packet with fraction strip templates, number lines, exit? That would be great, but not today. So it'll give me all the resources I need. So that is strategy number 2, starting with the standards. 3, and we're going to do this, 3 and 4, we're going to do these pretty simply. 3 and 4, we're going to do it in the same thread as that one. 3 is sometimes teachers have to follow a certain framework for their lesson plans. We want your lessons to follow this approach. And we can provide a sample here, or for some, like the Danielson framework is well established. So all we have to do is ask for it. And then I'll skip 4, but it's basically just now printed out for me. Give me a nice Word document. So if we do need to submit and we have to have specific components in our lesson plan, then again, we're just going to ask for it. And it will revise it for me according to that approach. So go. Take the same plan you just gave me. I've approved it. Maybe I've had to ask for some modifications, add a little more here, add a little more there. But then, oh, here's what it's supposed to look like. Here's my framework I'm supposed to use. Revise it to do that. If it's a big, well-known model like Danielson, just ask for it. It's going to be in there somewhere. If it's something specific to the school or the district, it's probably worth providing a sample. Say, review the sample, revise the plan to align with this format and structure. And there we go. It's going to take a little longer this time. All my domains, standards, outcomes, knowledge, domain 2, all my how I'm going to fit and apply domain 2, domain 3, which is the actual instruction. And then finally, under Danielson, there should be, 1, 2, and 3. I've got my assessments, and there's domain 4 right there. So that's how we modify our plans to meet a required format. But really what it comes down to is if you need something, ask for it. And if you don't ask for it, you may or may not get it. All right, so let's do the evaluation criteria. And I've already kind of addressed this, but basically, if you're getting evaluated, you have to turn in lesson plans. Somebody's going to look at them, or as a part of the ongoing evaluation, you've got some criteria, and you're going to be measured. How well did you meet these criteria? Well, we want the lesson plan to meet those criteria, right, at the highest level. So we're going to upload all the same stuff. The big difference here is we're going to upload that evaluation rubric and specifically instruct the AI to meet the highest level on that evaluation rubric. So let's ask for it. Let me take prompt 5, which is here. Review the standards and the uploaded evaluation rubric. Now, if I'm doing a brand new prompt to my lesson plan, I'm going to add that piece. Review it and give me the lesson plan. Or in this case, I've already got a lesson plan. Now I need to modify it and adapt it. So I can skip that little top part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start here with the criteria. Make sure the lesson plan meets all the expectations in domain in 1 and 3. Think carefully. And that's actually very important. If it takes a critical thinking task like this, aligning rubrics and evaluating and so forth, we need to slow the AI down a bit and have it check its work. So when we say think carefully, that's going to force the AI to go back and use its highest thinking model and to do that analysis before providing the response. The other thing that we're going to add at the very bottom is this. Before you create the lesson plan, ask me questions, because maybe there's some stuff that hasn't been addressed yet, but the evaluation criteria require it. So I have the AI ask me questions to fill in some of that missing information. And once I've provided it, then it can create the plan. So let me go ahead and show just very quickly what this looks like. All right. I'm going to just say revise in this case, because I'm going to use the same thread. just to show how that's going to work. Can I scroll up to the top? Okay. I'm going to say revise the lesson plan with these things. And of course, I need to include the evaluation, which is here. I know teachers spend a lot of time cross-referencing. Have I done this? Have I done this? Have I done this? Have I done this? And going through, right? And having to do revisions. The AI can do that for us, which is great. But we do need to include that piece at the end. Ask me questions. And still uploading because this one's kind of a big one. Come on, you. There we go. So we're not going to run the whole thing. It's going to take a while. But you see it says thinking longer for a better answer. What it's going to come back with is some questions. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. Do you want it to look like this? Do you want it to look like that? Because it's cross-checking the lesson against those evaluation criteria, and it's finding gaps. Basically, here are some things that are not currently addressed, and I need some input. It's basically what it's asking us. So it's going to provide those questions. We'll provide the answers, and then off it goes. Asking, clarifying. I'm a little curious to see what comes up in the 4 minutes we have remaining to us. I'll tell you, I was doing a training pretty recently with a group of teachers, and I do a lot of trainings. The principal that was there was just floored by this. She says, "Oh my goodness gracious. If all of my teachers are amazing teachers," which is probably true, right? She says, "but when I go to the evaluation, sometimes I can't give them results that demonstrate how amazing they are because there's gaps and there's things that are not included." She says, "if my teachers would do this before they sent me lesson plans, everybody would get the top rating that they deserve." Well, let's do it ahead of time then, right? And so there we go. So we've got some questions. How many students? What are the key subgroups? Confirm, do you want the emphasis here or there? Do you want student leadership elements and so forth? And what I would do is I would go through the questions. I would answer them in my follow-up, and it's going to say, great, here's your plan. And it's going to make sure it's all there. Very, very powerful technique that a lot of folks don't realize. Instead of just giving all the information, we can have the AI ask us, what do you need to do this task? And I'm going to do one of these, which is, for the sake of time, if there's a specific instructional approach, or maybe we've had some training, like I've had training in cooperative learning, for example, and the principal says, I want to see it in your plans. What we do is we provide the lesson and we say, okay, have I done that? Am I demonstrating the skills of this training that I've received that I'm required to put into my pedagogical approach? And it will tell us strengths and weaknesses based on that specific outcome. And go. Because if we've received training and the school spends money on sending us to whatever, right? Or brings in trainers, it's a good question. Are you actually doing it? Or if you're learning a new instructional approach, how well am I doing? Am I fully implementing? So we have the AI take a look at our plans and give us ideas for how to do it better. And things we've done and recommendations for improvements. So that, in a hurry, is 4 ways to use AI for developing and delivering lesson plans. All right, so just because I've got to say it, let me just check the chat right quick just to make sure. And Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. A couple of things. We've got 3 more webinars coming up. These are the dates. Better rubrics. The next one's more on the policy level. What do we put into place? And how do we modify the instruction and the policies to prevent kids from cheating with AI? Because a lot of folks are very concerned kids are going to use AI to cheat. So we're going to face that. We're going to take that head on in November. And then in December, one specifically for administrators and leaders, how do we tailor our classroom observations to what we would like to see? How do we modify and customize them? So we will hit that. The event link is there at EdAInow.eventbrite.com. So you are welcome to subscribe. And if you want to see this recording or the other ones, you can always pop over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@EdAINow. We've got a pretty good handful of videos on there. Most of them are 10-minute, very focused, short videos. This one will go up there in a couple of days also. So I recommend you take a look at them. And that is what we got. So hope you all found it useful. Some new strategies, make life a little better, make instruction a little stronger. And let's go out and serve those kids with everything we've got.